relationship, religious practice and relationship, because something can be a religious practice, but it's not necessarily in the Bible, or it has nothing to do with your personal relationship with God. It has nothing to do with your personal relationship with God whatsoever. But it's just a religious practice. And just because it's a religious practice and someone's been doing it for years doesn't necessarily make it right. And some people may not agree with me, some people may agree with me. And that's absolutely fine, because I come to the point in my walk with Christ that, like, I know what he is to me, and I'm cool with that, and I don't feel the need to like jump through all these hoops, or I don't feel the need to basically prove to someone that I have the relationship that I have with God, because at the end of the day, my relationship with God is personal. Like, your relationship with God is personal, and there's no I feel as though there's no way a Christian shirt. People. How can I say this correctly? Because I feel like people are really about to jump down my throat, but it is what it is, because these are my beliefs and I stand by them, and that's it. Like, I feel like people put Christianity and people put Christian in this box. Like, they think that, oh, I'm a Christian, so I'm about to be Bible toting, I'm about to be mad boring, I'm about to have skirts down to my ankle to prove that I'm so holy. Like, and that's the thing. And I feel like, and like, growing up in the church, I feel like you see it a lot. And sometimes with me, I put it on unintentionally, because, like, if you grew up in the church, then you know how to put on that role of church. If you grew up in somewhere in an environment, you basically know how to play your role, right? You knew what was expected of you, and most of the time you did what was expected. Not because you knew, not because you really got the meaning behind it, but you knew what you were supposed to do. Lily, I'm right. Like, sometimes I'm not even. I don't like. I'm being honest. Sometimes you just play the role to play your role, because if you don't play your role, then you're gonna have to answer a million and one questions of why you didn't do it. So it's sometimes you bit your lip and you played your role, not because you really understood it. But as you get older, right? And this is why we find a lot of people, as they get older, they're leaving the church, because it's like we're just here because my I wanted to come here because my grandma was in this church, or I wanted to come here because this is the church I was raised in, and this is where my parents support me, and I was taught that it was the right thing to do. But it wasn't really, like, your heart isn't really in it, because you didn't really know. So as you get into adult, you have to, like, basically what I had to do. Let me speak for myself. I'm not putting words in nobody mouth. You have to basically get that relationship with God for yourself, because at the end of the night, when you're going through stuff, sometimes your pastor ain't available. Because my grandma be sleep early, so like, certain times of the night, I'm not gonna be able to get to her. You have to have a relationship with God for yourself, and know how to get a prayer through, because at the end of the day, I'm not about to wait till Sunday to have to go to church to get a prayer through, and then hear COVID. Like, churches are closed, so if you don't have a relationship with God for yourself, like, you would have been lost. Like, if you didn't know how to pray and communicate and worship God for yourself, you shouldn't have to go into a physical building in order to worship God. You don't have to have someone pray for you in order to know that you have a connection with God, because that's what Jesus was here for. Like, I'm not about to get into a whole sermon, but I was told that when Jesus rose, the veil was broken, and when that veil was broken, that means we were able to come before the Father for ourselves. He said we could call him Abba, we could call him Father, meaning we can have a relationship with him, meaning I don't have to wait to somebody to go through God for me. I can come into God for myself. And that's all I'm about to say on that topic, because I feel like I feel it. But that's it. So basically, that's what that whole religion section was about. Was basically about me developing a relationship with God, for myself, and realizing the relationship that I thought I had was only a connection. No, Lily, don't no, because I will pull you right in here. I'm not a Christian poet. I'm not about to I'm not about to be preaching up on here because no. No, Lily, don't pipe me. Don't pipe me. Because I was a chaplain of my gospel choir at Westchester. So I do know the word Christ, even though, and that's funny because a lot of people don't even know. They don't even know that I was a chaplain of my gospel choir at Westchester. Like, it's just like they don't view me as someone who's in the word, because it's like I don't look about like what I don't dress like how a typical they feel as though a typical Christian would dress like, or some of the topics that I touch on in my poetry, they feel as though it's not topics, but I feel as though like you can reach everyone, and I feel like I can reach more people through my poetry than I would ever be able to reach standing behind a podium. So I'm gonna read. I don't know which one I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read a poem from this section. I guess I should do church hurt since we talked about church hurt. They say church hurt ain't real. Well, do you want to feel the scars from the knife in my back from when they found out that I was unwedded with a baby on the way? The tears, the stares, the whisper. They would dismantle every prayer that they would say. If looks can kill, I would be dead, cold. But yet, these are the very same people that I'm supposed to trust with my soul. But you know what they say? Church hurt ain't real. And if you were serious, no one would be able to run you out of the church. Well, you tell me how I'm supposed to focus on my relationship with God when they're too busy focused on the cut of my blouse and the length of my skirt. I met with style faces and safety pins instead of a warm embrace. I was always taught that I was beautifully and wonderfully made, but yet somehow showing my God-given figure is deplorable. It's such a disgrace. But you know what they say? Church hurt ain't real. Well, listen closely. And you can hear the souls crying out for comfort, crying out for help. But I guess since their form of surrender don't look like you, don't pray using the same words as you, don't jump up and shout hallelujah on cue, that they're not serious. They need to get up and go home and come back only after they sanctify themselves, which is just a funny way to say lone church culture. How are we any different than the vultures that Jesus kicked out of the temple, chasing titles instead of monetary gain? It's a shame that if Christ were to return today, he wouldn't even recognize his own bride. Now, I tried to sit back in my corner and be quiet. Lord knows I tried, but they wouldn't sit up in my face and convince me that church hurt ain't real. Yet, my church attendance, or lack thereof, got them questioning God's call on my life. Like my destiny, he didn't already pre-write. Like it's not a testament of his grace every time I grace this mic. Now, you know me. I'm not here to point any fingers or get even when feathers are rubbed, but we cannot continue to promote this atmosphere of perfection while sweeping our own skeletons out of the rug. We all have sinned and fell short of his glory. That wasn't just exclusive for you. And I know a Bible scholar like yourself didn't neglect to read the prior verse, Romans 3:22. There is no difference among them that believe. Your Holy Ghost isn't on a greater tier. You may have a title, but we read the same Bible. And Romans 13 tells me that there is one Lord, one hope, one faith. So you remember that the next time you judge somebody off of a mistake. Because after all, we were all nothing but a bunch of sinners who needed grace. And I feel like that's what people forget. Like, people like such were some of you, right? We were all in a sinful state and we needed grace. And I feel like a lot of people, a lot of churches are so caught up on the outer man that the inner man gets neglected. They want you so fast to take on the outer appearance of a saint, but like, am I like, am I really changed inside of my heart before the outer appearance can change? Because I can easily dress up, I can fit any crowd. Like, it's so that's easy to do, but like, do you really do, is that change really within? And I feel as like if that change is really within, it's like if you're in a relationship, right? You're in a relationship and you love that person, you're not going to do anything to hurt that person. And then I feel like it's the same way. Like, if the church just focus on preaching Jesus and preaching the gospel, and what is the gospel? The gospel is good news. The gospel is Jesus saves. Instead of focusing on preaching, preaching about, don't do this, don't do that. If churches go back to preaching the gospel, then I feel as though the church would be a better environment. Because what is the church? The church is it's supposed to be a hospital. And if I go to the hospital and someone is condemning me because of the sickness that I have, I'm not going to want to go to that hospital. If I go to church in this sinful state, and where I'm here because clearly I need help, I'm here because I want to get cleaned up, and someone is judging me for the state that I am, the state that I'm in, then clearly I'm not going to want to come to church. So if we go back to preaching the gospel, preaching God is love, Jesus save, and I know a lot of people like, oh, I don't like churches like that because that's not teaching the whole truth. But I feel as though scaring someone, telling them that they're going to go to hell is like, if you're telling me I'm about to go to a place that and I'm going to burn for the rest of my life, I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to want to go to that place. But as soon as I'm not going to want to go to that place, so I'm going to act in line of what you tell me to do, so I won't go to that place. But as soon as that fear wear off, I'm going to leave. As soon as I'm not fearful of going to hell anymore, it's like I'm not about to come here anymore. But if you teach me God is love and I fall in love of who God is, because if we teach God and love, God has so many attributes that someone like, how couldn't you love him because of his attributes? So if we teach that and people fall in love with God for who he is, they're not going to want to intentionally hurt him. Absolutely, yep, yep. The church is definitely supposed to be a hospital. Definitely supposed to be a hospital. But yeah, that's the section about basically religion versus relationships. So that's that. And